The Ready, Set, Grow podcast is sponsored by AgExpert, software designed for Canadian agriculture. Visit them today at agexpert.ca.
Welcome to the Ready, Set, Grow podcast, where we interview and discuss innovative topics in the agriculture and food sector. Today, we've got a really great topic where we're going to be talking about how do we bridge that gap between taking new innovations to agriculture and testing it and de-risking it for farmers. And so there's more rapid adoption. We have a new initiative that we're learning about today called the AIVA Network Coalition, which is a group of organizations that have come together. Emily, Wynn, and under the leadership of Farm Credit Canada, this group has come together to develop a system that is going to help speed up the adoption of innovations and with real farmer testing, which is really exciting. Today, we have two great guests, Jacqueline Keena from Emily and Johnny Park from Wynn. So welcome, Jacqueline. Can you introduce yourself for a minute? And for the people that don't know Emily, tell us a little bit about what you do and who Emily is.
Sure. Thanks very much for having us, Joe. It's great to be here and talk more about the AIVA Network. We're really excited. So the AIVA Network, we're excited that it's launching here on May 12th. It builds out a piece of work that Emily has been doing for 5 years now at Innovation Farms here in Manitoba. And so the work that Emily does on Innovation Farms is to provide a place to test and demonstrate both pre-commercial and commercial technologies at scale on real farms. And so we've been at that for, this will be our 5th growing season. And we work across 2 sites, broadacre commercial seed farm, as well as a potato farm, which includes irrigated acres and all sorts of additional capacity to test technologies at scale. And we got to that work because we kept hearing from innovators that access to full-scale testing was a big barrier for them. They were able to test on test plots. They were able to strike up individual one-on-one relationships with farmers to test. But other than that, they didn't have an ability to test at full scale across, a number of different areas, a number of different types of agricultural regions, farm types, etc. And that this was causing them to stall out in terms of scaling their businesses and continuing to innovate. And so at Emily, over the last number of years, we've provided these 2 opportunities in Manitoba. We've been really pleased to work with others doing similar work, like at Innovation Farms Ontario and Area XO and at Olds College as well. And so that's sort of the origins of Emily and the Innovation Farm work that we've been doing. And it sort of leads to what we want to talk about around AIVA this morning.
Perfect. I'm really delighted to welcome Johnny Park here from Wynn. Johnny, you've been a leader in the innovation and agricultural tech area. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Wynn?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. So my background is actually engineering. I did my undergrad, master's, and PhD at Purdue University. I majored in computer engineering and ended up becoming a professor at Purdue. So I was, for a while, a young professor pursuing robotics and computer vision, very far from agriculture. I knew nothing about agriculture, but one thing led to another. I received a large grant from USDA, Department of Agriculture in the United States, to use technologies to automate labor-intensive activities. So that led me to work on solving some of the challenging problems in agriculture and just fell in love with it, right? And I saw a tremendous opportunity to commercialize some of the technologies that we were developing and decided to start a company. And so I then transitioned my career from academics to an entrepreneur. So transitioned out and pursued my startup journey. And I learned a lot through that process. And then it was a good outcome, and the startup was acquired by another company about 8 years ago that allowed me to do another transition, and that led me to land at Wynn. Wynn is a really unique nonprofit organization, And our mission is to accelerate adoption of emerging technologies by farmers. So we've been doing this for about 8 years. And really the core purpose is that we've been hearing a lot of farmers saying that they're inundated and bombarded every day with all those different technologies. And they don't really know which one is right for their farm. And under that mission, we really wanted to help farmers to adopt the right technologies for their farm operations. So there are really two things that we do at WIN. First part is that we go out and vet innovative technologies from around the world. So we vet about a couple hundred companies per year. And we talk to the founders, we talk to their customers, then we talk to our farmers in our network. Hey, here's a price, here's what it does. Would you use this in your farm? And if that goes well, then we try to recruit a couple of farmers who are really excited about this technology and have them pilot this technology. And then if that goes well, then we would endorse it officially to the rest of the network. So out of a couple hundred that we vet per year, we endorse typically one or two technologies to our farmer members. So that's what we do in the first half. And the second half, of course, is that we engage our farmers very closely. We get to know them really well. We get to know their operations. So we spend some time with them one-on-one. And as we vet these technologies, we present to them, hey, here's what we have vetted. And based on what we know about your operation, we think it might be a good fit for you. Would you give it a try? So that's essentially what we do at WIN. Yeah.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
I think we're all very excited about the range and the scope and the scale of a lot of the new innovations that are coming to agriculture, whether it's robotics or biologicals or AI, artificial intelligence. What in your mind is the reason, the challenge that we're trying to overcome here? I've got some of my own thoughts. I know farmers are very busy, especially in the spring, and it's hard to do everything well. But what's kind of the problem we're trying to solve here with AIVA? Maybe Jacqueline, if you'll take a cut at that.
Sure. Yeah, you're right, Joe. So we kind of identified two key areas of problem that we think that we're going to be able to address in part with AIVA, and certainly with collaborators, we'll work harder at it as well. And so they've sort of been mentioned. You mentioned it, Joe. This issue that farmers are already really busy running their operations. They've got lots to do all year long, all season long as well. And so when this sort of tidal wave of new technologies and all sorts of promises are coming at them about what new technology can do, they need some guidance, some sieve to be able to sort of sort through what is ready to be adopted on their operation, what is commercially viable and has been tested and sort of put through its paces already before they're being asked to make adoption decisions. So that's the first barrier or adoption barrier that we're seeking to address. And the second is what Johnny mentioned, that innovators are also working in all sorts of different ways to create great innovations. But how do we help them identify what are the sort of innovative pathways that are going to make the most impact in agriculture and make the most difference to farmers? And so, one of the ways we do that is through the rigorous feedback loop and trial and testing that Johnny identified. And the other is through this testing and demonstration at scale and getting that feedback loop from real world farming conditions, but without it being detrimental to the actual farmers that are going to adopt these technologies. And so that's the piece that Emily Innovation Farms and our collaborators across the country have been doing for the last number of years, is being a bit of a risk mitigator for some of these new technologies by trying them at scale first and having that feedback loop before they go out to sort of the broader population.
Yeah, no, Jacqueline, you said it well. I think one thing that I might add is that really, to summarize, AIVA exists not because the bottleneck is technology, right? Bottleneck is not technology or innovation. We believe that bottleneck is really the validation, adoption, and trust. right? And AIVA exists to address those three. Yeah.
Building on that, so what are we trying to accomplish? What is AIVA? Why now? Can you just kind of explain a little bit more to our audience?
Sure. Well, maybe, Johnny, I'll set you up for it here. So AIVA, the Agriculture, Innovation, Validation, and Adoption Network. It brings together farmers, innovators, and these validation hubs, these innovation farms so far across Canada to accelerate proven technologies to market and de-risk adoption. And there's sort of three key areas of activity that we're undertaking through AIVA. The piece that will build out Emily's work and the work that's happening at Innovation Farms, Ontario, and Area XO and Olds College across Canada. Those are to be validation hubs where we, this season in 2026, will undertake 9 collaborative projects where these different technologies are being tested and validated across those sites in all these different regions in Canada. And so all throughout the growing season, we're going to be using these technologies, learning about them, providing feedback to the innovators, collecting data about how they're working. We're going to have 4 demo days where we are able to demonstrate to anyone who wants to come out to each of those sites and see how they're performing in real life and hear about our experience. And then we're providing that ultimate feedback at the end of the season back to the innovator and sort of seeing where they go next. Are they ready for commercialization? Are they iterating again in the course of the sort of winter season? Or, what's the next steps for that company? And so that's the sort of validation piece of the model. There's also the adoption piece of the model, which I'll let Johnny share about. That's the piece that really builds upon WIN's expertise and the success they've had over the last number of years. But then the third piece is around co-learning. And so that, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's our big objective to share out what we're learning. If we just learn a bunch of great stuff across these sites across Canada, and we don't tell anyone, then we really haven't done anything. And so we want to share it out in terms of all sorts of project reports and summaries and short snippets, but also more detailed information online at these demo days that are at the sites across Canada throughout the growing season. And then ultimately a profile also at Emily's Agriculture Enlightened conference coming up in the fall of this year. So a nice loop throughout the whole year in terms of doing things, talking about our learnings, and then getting ready for the season again. But a really important part of the AIVA network is the adoption model piece, and that's the work that builds upon Johnny and WIN's success.
Yeah, well, maybe I could kind of add on to that. So adoption model that Jacqueline mentioned. We've been doing this in Indiana, in the United States, for about 8 years. And we fully recognize that while we have learned a lot and we made a lot of mistakes here, we also have a lot of things to learn in Canada. But we do believe that some of the core lessons that we've learned and the framework is something that we can apply in Canada. So really the core the aspects of the adoption model is a rigorous vetting of technologies. So as I mentioned, farmers really don't have the time and resource to pick out which one's the right one for their farm. And they're busy. There are just, 3,000 other things to do. And the default position is to be skeptical about the technology and just perhaps not adopt it. And rightfully so, right? So we want to really, really reinforce our ability to vet technologies from around the world. And now these technologies need to be commercially viable. Right. So one of the things that we look at is that do they have some customers? Are they really creating value? And what are those customers are really saying? And are they getting ROI? And does this company have the ability to service farmers when things don't go well as expected? Right. So those are all the part of things that we vet. And then the second model is to really have a close relationship and tight-knit network of progressive farmers who are willing to try new tools, right? And also in a community-minded sense that they're willing to share what's really working well and what's not working, right? And part of the really important aspect of our network is that farmers sharing their experience with other farmers. So Jacqueline, briefly mentioned about co-learning, and this is an important part of the co-learning is that, hey, I use this technology in my farm, and here is what it worked well for me, and here are the things that just did not work, right? And that is such a powerful message and learning opportunity for other farmers. So we want to continue to reinforce that. And so, succinctly, summary is that we want to continue to vet rigorous, technologies from around the world, present to the farmers some of those technologies that we believe that have potential to be valuable in the farms, have a really close-knit network of farmers who are willing to try new tools and try it and share with others so that they can start adopting and using it.
That's terrific. So I'm a farmer. Why should I get involved, Jacqueline? What's in it for me?
I think that there's a few really important opportunities for farmers, and they are different sort of based on how they engage with the model. If they engage on the adoption side and work with Johnny and his team around that early adoption model, there's real opportunity to get access to early access to cutting edge technologies, to be part of that ability to influence new technologies and provide feedback from their real world experience using and testing the technologies. And the opportunity to sort of get that first access and provide influence. So that's a really important one for people that want to be early stage, that want to get that access, that want to provide the influence. But, that's for folks that are quite interested in being earlier in the early adoption curve. For farmers at large across Canada, I think the big opportunity for them, or the value that AIVA can provide, is around making sure that technologies that go through the AIVA network and ultimately reach them are as tested as can be, as tried and sort of put through its paces as possible by the time it reaches Canadian producers, that we've tested it at validation hubs across Canada, that it's worked through the adoption model and gotten feedback from the early adoption farmers, and that we have identified that, it is very likely a great fit for Canadian agriculture and truly does solve a problem or amplify an opportunity that farmers are seeing. So the goal with AIVA is that technologies that then reach Canadian agriculture and Canadian ag producers are a great fit to solve problems and address opportunities identified in Canadian agriculture.
Mm-hmm. Johnny, I really like the process that you guys have developed. Explain some of the value you've seen with your projects over the last few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our farmers, so in Indiana, we have about 65 farmers. You may think that that's not a lot, but that's enough of very progressive, community-minded farmers in our region that are very elite and very influential, right? And so they found our vetting process very helpful. Think about having a unbiased, nonprofit organization whose job is to do all those vetting on their behalf, right? So it's very valuable for them. But not only that, you get to be part of this network where you get to learn from other farmers who've tried this technology that I might want to try next year, right? So you get to learn and hear directly from them. So I think this network of vetting is really, really helpful for the farmers. I know we're going to get to the startups world. So as I mentioned, when we started this, we really put farmers' perspective first. So it's really farmer-centric model. And we wanted to make sure that we solve the problems for farmers. But as a result, startups are also benefiting from this process, right? And as I mentioned, we have a very rigorous vetting process. But those tech companies that made it all the way to the official endorsement, we currently have 8 tech partners in the United States. They have collectively raised over $380 million since becoming our tech partner. So they're quick to give us the credit for their success by giving them really honest feedback. Hey, here are what the farmers are saying to you. Here are some of the problems that you need to solve. and also allowing them to access really elite progressive farmers for them to give it a try in the beginning.
Yeah, I think the value is pretty obvious for the startups and the investors. A lot of these small companies, I deal with them every day, as you guys do. They need everything. They don't know the farmers. They're trying to develop innovations that haven't been done before. So it's a real challenge. And to get real on-farm testing in practical conditions in the the heat of battle, that's hugely valuable. And you've obviously tested that model, and if you're getting those sort of results, bringing that to Canada, I think will be of immense value, both for the startups, and the investment community. Any thoughts there, Jacqueline, on this process?
I just comment on, I think Johnny really did those examples of how it benefits the startups and how they, are scaling faster and more effectively, efficiently as they go. But from the investor side as well, what we seek to provide with the AIVA network and what we're seeing in some ways at Emily Innovation Farms to date is that investors can, connect us with the startups, the companies that they're either invested in or looking at and evaluating. And when we test with them at full scale, it provides some really good insight and data sets about how those new technologies are performing and what the future looks like for them. And if what they have already is something scalable or if they need to, pivot and tweak their offering. And so through AIVA, that's what we seek to do on an even broader scale. And so in Canada, we have a emerging, strong with lots of great idea agtech startup ecosystem. But we want to make sure that this provides that extra bit of value so that it works even better. Those agtechs scale the right solutions faster and pivot where they need to something else that provides more value if that's what the experience and the data indicates.
Yeah, I want to add something really quickly, Joe. The value to the startups is pretty clear. And you mentioned about testing in real farm environment, which is really important. But even earlier stage than that, because part of our vetting process is actually ask our member farmers and say, hey, here's a price, here's a technology. What do you think about it, right? Even getting that feedback and at that stage is incredibly helpful. So we may think, because we've vet a lot of companies, but still we're not, we don't live farmers' operation day to day, right? So we think, oh, wow, this is pretty interesting. So let's ask farmers. And we are kind of excited about this. And then, we asked 12 farmers and nobody's really, raising their hand about, hey, I'm interested. That's a signal that definitely is very important for us. And we give that feedback to the startup. Hey, your idea seems great, but then farmers are just not responding to it, right? And so you ought to probably think through that and maybe talk to more farmers about this. Does that make sense, right? It's about, so it's about, really getting through the stages. And because of this network, we're able to get those quick feedback. Hey, here's a price, here's what it does. Would you buy this? And if there is nobody signing up and nobody's raising interest, then there's something to be said. There's a red flag there, right?
Yeah. Better save me money or make me money, but
that's right.
Eventually it's got to have some sort of benefit. What does success look like? And then what do you need and how can the industry help you? We want you to be successful with this because we need innovation. You're de-risking it. Thank you for doing this. But how can we help? What do you need and how can we help?
Well, Joe, I would say first and foremost, the group that's come together around the AIVA Network Coalition, including Innovation Farms Ontario and a variety of others, 23 odd organizations, I think. That's, a really great sign. And I'm really grateful that all those people are willing to put their hat in the ring and be part of this with us. It represents a great swath of nonprofits, of investors, of accelerators, of the sort of hub sites doing this work across Canada. And so that's, I think, a really important sign and signal for us that, like you say, which I'm grateful for. Thank you that people see value. They see the need for this type of work and they want to be a part of it with us. We want that. We're not going to do it on our own. We've just identified these opportunities and we've set in motion some activities to support it, but we need to keep building it out. We need to keep building it out with people. And so that's a great sign for us. We're going to keep working on that piece. I think beyond that, we also want to hear from people about the interesting innovations and innovators that they're coming across, whether it's through the adoption model side and that process that Johnny's spoken about, or the validation hub side and the testing across these innovation farms in Canada. We're in the 2026 season, but we're getting ready for the 2027 season. And so we need that feedback and sort of those referrals from people as well. And we want to sort of engage with people all along the journey of innovation because things are not done when they're sort of through the AIVA network model. We want to be able to keep supporting them and connecting them to sort of other spots along the continuum as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So you asked, what does a success look like? I mean, so to me, in the next 5 to 10 years, if we do this right, Canada will be recognized as the country where ag tech innovations are being adopted faster than any other parts of the world, right? So any innovators in ag tech think about, adoption. Where should I market this? Canada should be on the top of their mind, right? If that happens, that's a success, right? To me, to me. The things that we need from you folks in the stakeholders in the ecosystem is that the heart of this initiative is working with elite, progressive, and community-minded farmers, right? So we really need their commitment, their involvement. And so if you know of a good elite, progressive and community-minded, and when I say community-minded, that means they're willing to share their experience with other farmers, because that's a really important part of this network. And we would love to have them be part of our network, Farmer.
And I just add that you mentioned success, Joe. I think, as Johnny identified, we want people to think of Canada when they think of great adoption cycle and ability to adopt new technologies. But I think for AIVA, related to that, for AIVA, our success will be measured by our ability to help ag tech scale faster and more efficiently, and also that farmers at large across the country can adopt new technologies and have confidence that those products have been tested, rigorously vetted, and they're ready for their adoption, and they're taking a risk, but less of a risk because those technologies have gone through the AIVA network.
Yeah. Well, thank you for showing leadership, you guys and FCC and your organizations. I think if people want more information, we've got a website, aivanetwork.ca. Encourage farmers and startups to check that out and follow along with that. And we're really looking forward to watching the progress of this wonderful initiative. So thank you for joining us, and thank you.
Thanks for your partnership along the way.
And thanks for our audience. You can find the Ready, Set, Grow podcast on YouTube and on our other podcast channels. And we look forward to seeing this wonderful initiative grow and prosper and help our industry. Thank you for now. Bye now.
Thank you so much.